Welcome to the Creating Wealth and Wellness podcast. Your hosts, Amanda Kingsley and Tara Missildine, team up to take you on a journey where freedom is cultivated through personal development, where women connect to fuel their futures, and where wealth is created as a byproduct of being well.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Creating Wealth and Wellness podcast with Tara Missildine, that's me, and Amanda Kingsley. So we have had a couple of great episodes leading up that were really like time relevant. We're in the holiday season right now. We've talked in the last couple of episodes about, what do we do to keep going when we don't feel that great, and also about connected and peaceful holidays. And today we're going to dive back into our typical selves, which is the really juicy bits of life. And we're going to talk about transformation. But before we do that, we are going to share our gratitudes, the way that we open every episode. Hi, Amanda.
Hey.
Hello.
I have an easy gratitude because before we started recording, I realized how chilly I was. So I did this cool thing where I walked over to my wall and I turned a dial and the heat came on. I was like, that's so cool that I turned the heat on. Wouldn't have been able to do that so easy 100 years ago or more, 200 years ago, whatever. So, hey, simple things like heat and water.
Yeah, cool.
Total gratitude right there.
Let's see. I am going to share a gratitude for a particular person, and I'll have to let her know that I'm giving her a direct shout out. But her name is Courtney Hill, and not only is she my amazing acupuncturist, but she also is a very dear friend. And last weekend, she came over to my home and literally helped me channel a remodel of my dining room that I am so excited about. And I was really, really unclear. And it was a weird, a shifting amalgamation of actual hodgepodgery before she had me narrow it all down. But now the image that I see of it is so crystal clear and I'm so excited. Yeah.
Does this involve actual remodeling or arrangement of
pseudo remodeling? There's going to be a lot of repainting, refinishing of floors, touching up really sloppy work that had been done by the previous owners. So mine, I live in an almost 300-year-old house. The house was built in 1745. So there's been lots of generations of people. Some of them did nice work and others did really, really sloppy work. So I'm going to be doing that, and then some rearrange. It's pretty much soup to nuts, short of remodeling the room.
Yeah.
The
Back
walls
in the
and
1700s, they couldn't walk to the wall and turn the heat on.
That's true. They couldn't. They could throw a log on the fireplace. That was about it. Which
That's
I
so
will
cool.
also
I still have
be
to
doing.
come visit your house.
You have not been to my house?
No, I haven't been to your house.
How is it that I envision you being there?
I know, because we've
talked face to face on these messages while I've been at my breakfast table and stuff. All right. Yeah. You do need to come see my house.
Yeah.
Maybe you should come right after I finish some of this remodeling.
Sounds good.
Okay. Speaking of remodeling.
Oh yeah,
things
totally.
Boom segue. We're talking about transformation today, and not of dining rooms. We're talking about ourselves when we crack our what's open and become something new. What does that mean to you, Amanda?
Yeah, I just saw the battery light come on for my computer. Computer problems. I will just walk in the other room. So this whole caterpillar butterfly thing has been coming up for me a lot lately, probably because I'm in it. I'm very much in it. And I think the two things that I think the thing I think is really cool about this process of transformation is that there's both science and faith. If you think about the caterpillar, right?
Totally.
It's just science. It's just it just is, right? It's just, you can't stop the chrysalis from becoming a butterfly. It's just the process. But for us as human beings, it's a little less clear. So part of it is just the process. It's the process of being human. There's this transformation. But to do it gracefully and beautifully, it also requires a lot of faith. Don't you think? Like, it's going to happen no matter what. You're going to grow and evolve and change shape, but to do it gracefully and with a fair amount of beauty or end result that you feel good about, it, for me, there's just so much faith. Like, I trust that this evolution is going to result in something beautiful, even though it feels really messy right now. Does that make sense?
Totally. And we're huge library fans at our house. Not me as much as my daughter and my husband are. I try so hard. I'm not much of a reader. I feel so bad. But anyways, on another note, this exact premise that you're talking about is one of my favorite books that we've ever rented from the library. We just returned it last week. It was a little book that Aria picked out called Little Tree. Have you ever seen it?
No.
Look it up. It's so freaking beautiful.
Little Tree.
Yep. The idea is that it shows this one little oak tree, and he's just a tiny little tree, and he's surrounded by other little trees, and the winter comes and his leaves like get brown, and he is too scared to let go of them. So he doesn't actually let go of any of his leaves, even though all of his forest friends and everybody are like, you have to, so that you can grow. You have to let go of those baby leaves so that you can grow next spring. And he doesn't. And seasons keep coming and going, and he never feels comfortable enough to like let go of his leaves, and his other little tree friends grow up around him, and then he can't see the sunlight and he can't hear the song of the mourning dove because she's so far overhead, and finally he surrenders and lets go. And then the following season, obviously he grows new leaves and grows and like sort of participates in that evolution and growth cycle. But it's exactly what you're talking about. Faith of being able to let go, even though we're so scared, and there's no guarantee that we'll grow new leaves in the spring, but what we do know is the science that no new leaves can grow where old ones still are, kind of that, speaking directly to what you are. And it was such a cute story. So I will also put that in the show notes.
Yeah, I need that one because letting go is definitely a thing for me. And yeah, I mean, we are human. Like, we are born, we grow, we die. Like, you're going to change in your life. Like, you are going to transform in your mind, in your body, in your spirit. It's going to happen. Yeah. So it's just how you do it. And if you have faith, and if you really just surrender and let go with intention for it to be a beautiful evolution, like it can be absolutely amazing or not. But you're going to evolve one way or another. You're transforming. As we speak, you are transforming.
Yep, exactly. I think
what you want to turn into is up to you.
Yep, our lives are a series of entering and coming out of that chrysalis. It is always this, like you said. And it's transforming one way or the other, because I'm sure that we've seen, even in our own lives, what happens on the other side of positive transformation, and also wounds that we carry, that transformed us in some way that wasn't so positive.
Yeah.
So
I got on Facebook Live actually this morning before we started recording, and talked about what I'm calling the mid-parenting crisis. I'm calling it that because it really was when my daughter turned 13, and I know I've even talked about it on this show before, but it was very much a mid-parenting crisis to me. And I knew that my next evolution, my next growth was inevitable. So I could either surrender to it and make it what I wanted it to be, or I could hold on and not let it happen and, keep my leaves for another winter.
Oh, I love that Little Tree is now a trope in our podcast.
But it's been hard. It's been a few kind of really intense cracking open weeks. And some of it's been dark, and some of it's been confusing, and there's been fear. But ultimately, like, the vision and the faith at the end, and that butterfly is keeping me alive. It's keeping me going. And there's so much beauty coming out of this mid-parenting crisis. But if I had just freaked out, it could have been really dark, and it could have been really ugly, and it could have been me holding on to something that I wasn't meant to hold on to anymore.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to find that book when we're done.
So I love that. I mean, you know how much I love the elements. You love the elements in terms of like we're talking Chinese 5 elements, like body systems, and I love them when it comes to personality. But like we're in the winter season. This is the season of letting go, and I love that this conversation sort of took that turn, or is looking at the element of letting go when it comes to transforming, because we could have taken this anywhere. And I think now is the time, like, that it's really natural to think about what do we need to let go to make room for that transformation, because the caterpillar has to be willing to let go of his caterpillar body and step into that chrysalis.
Yep.
And you had mentioned that, there's no way of preventing it from becoming a caterpillar. Well, yeah, there actually kind of is. If the caterpillar doesn't make it into the chrysalis, or if the environment isn't right for the chrysalis to actually produce the space to become a butterfly, like we can stop that transformation from happening in that beautiful way.
I noticed my face. Oh, you can still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Good. I'm having all these technical problems.
Yeah, your face was frozen, but it was quite a lovely shot. So it didn't bother me. It wasn't a weird one.
Someone just posted on Facebook recently something about why is life so unfair? And one of the answers was, there is no fairness. There's only flow. And I said, I absolutely agree with that. And I want to add that acceptance and surrender are essentially letting go, right?
Yep.
Allow for the flow, right?
Yeah.
Like they allow. And so in terms of the caterpillar, you're absolutely right. There is a way to prevent it, which is it's so interesting. The way to stop that process is to change the environment that it's in, right?
Yep.
So I actually don't know this to be true, but for instance, a monarch, I think they only lay chrysalis on a milk pod, right? Milkweed?
It's their preferred.
Exactly. Okay, so if the caterpillar does not find the environment to build and transform into the chrysalis, it does end and it does stop. And so in terms of like my situation in the mid-parenting crisis, I could have put myself in an environment that would not have allowed for the transformation. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is absolutely true. Like, it is still science, but you can stop it. You can change the environment and it's not going to happen. You're going to like hit a dead block. But yeah, this thing about, for her, this unfairness in life and there only being flow. And it was like, yeah, to tap into the flow, you do have to surrender and just let go.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also really important to remember in those moments of when it's hard to reconcile what's going on with what we feel, because it could be a lot of different things. When something feels unfair, it's because either it doesn't match our expectations of what we thought was going to happen, or it doesn't feel like, it doesn't match the efforts that we've been putting in, but it's usually just a letdown of whatever we expected.
Right.
And it's not, how do I want to say this without sounding dogmatic? But it's really, it's not about being unfair, because how many times has something happened that wasn't what we expected, and yet it led to the thing that transforms us. Like it could be, a horrific illness. I think of, okay, so this is a pretty intense example, but we had a really interesting sort of birth plan, my husband and I, and we had prepared for an extremely long time of trying to become a family. And it did not work out that way. So it was shockingly fast and almost accidental. And it took my husband, Dave, many, many months to sort of come around to being ready that we were already in the countdown. And it was really hard for me. And I was in a pretty decent car accident where a college girl ran a red light and T-boned me when I was 5.5 months pregnant, T-boned my car in my driver's side door. And so that experience, in that moment, I was like, oh my God, is this going to get taken away from me? Because I got rushed to the hospital in an ambulance and they couldn't find the heartbeat of the baby for the longest time in the ER. And I got rushed to this other specialist's room. And David got called to the hospital. And up until then, like, he was having massive reservations. Like, he had not really expressed any, like, happiness that we were pregnant yet. And here I was 5.5 months in. And that, I mean, this is a really intense example, but that experience just made everything so concrete that, like, the timing doesn't matter. Like, we are so excited. And when we finally found that heartbeat of hers, like, both of us melted into tears, and David was like, like, praying to every power that be, like, please don't, I know that I want this now. Like, I know I want this. And without that experience, I don't know what would have transformed his experience without that.
Oh,
and so that could have been experienced by me as like, oh my God, this is so unfair. Like, why did this have to happen to me? This was so stressful and so horrific to envision that maybe this was going to go away. And like, it was one of the most stressful experiences of my entire life. Like, I'll never forget how intense it was. And at the same time, it totally transformed the rest of our experience during that pregnancy. And
that pain was literally...
Would I want to trade that? No, that was our chrysalis moment,
Yeah.
And I would offer that to anyone who feels like something's unfair. It's, not necessarily that everything happens for a reason, but there's always a reason that we can stand by after something happens. We can create that reason, even if it wasn't like predestined. If you have a hard time believing that things happen for a reason because, you don't believe in the whole kismet kind of fates kind of thing, you still have the control over creating what that transformation meant to you, what that moment meant for you.
And how you
always
tell the
opens
story.
something.
Yeah. Because you tell an amazing story around that, and like, that pain for all three of you was necessary for you to birth this family that you have. Like, that's how you've crafted that.
It wasn't necessary per se, but it was absolutely a gift, because then there was no question, and we experienced the rest of that pregnancy completely different than the first half. So, I view that as a gift.
Yeah. Right.
So, and you can always choose to look for that in an experience.
Yeah.
Always. I have other experiences that have happened to me that it would have been very easy, and probably not going to lie, there were probably moments of like stepping into the like victim-y stuff a little bit. And at the same time, like, I'm a collaborative coach. Everything that I have been through that was terrible at the time makes me be able to relate to what other people are going through so much differently than if I didn't have all of those experiences under my belt, as painful and, terrible as they were at the time. So it makes us who we are, and hopefully
who we are is
love
beautiful.
who you are. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Powerful stuff.
Very cool. It's so good to have these conversations and just like take the time, right? Because Tara and I both do this work all the time. We do this work all the time. It's so much a part of our lives and our businesses. But I love that we get to have these conversations with each other about it, because that, like, doing this podcast has given us both this space, this like dedicated space to have the conversation with another entrepreneur and thinker and processor. And I hope it's giving
mom
to our listeners too. Like, hope this is giving them that space to just think about these things. And you might have things to add. Feel free to send them to us. Like,
please do, actually.
We want to hear how it's slightly different for you or the same.
Yeah. Even, I thought I already knew Amanda pretty well prior to doing this podcast, and she has managed to say things that have like disrupted my reality in the best way. Oop, there's our timer. So that's what we're hoping to create with all of you. It's like, this is not meant to be you listening in and on our conversation. It's meant to be all of our like global OUR conversation. We want to know what you're thinking, because it could challenge what we like. One of the new phrases that I'm working on another project, and one of the phrases that came up when I was writing the mission is that true growth happens past the edge of who you already are. And that's what we are doing here, is having conversations that, that lessen that veil between who you already are and who you could be.
Well, that's such a caterpillar butterfly.
Yeah, totally.
Too. I mean, like, the growth happens past the caterpillar stage.
Yep.
That's who you think you are, but the growth happens next.
Right. And our goal with this podcast is to sort of like be that gateway to the chrysalis for ourselves and everybody who wants to listen and join in the conversation. So that's very cool. This was a fun episode.
Well, we just kind of add a mutual ask, and we ask that a lot of our listeners, is to participate, and we really want you to do that. You have another ask this week, Tara?
Well, I just want to actually add to that ask. I'm going to ask people to literally go into our Facebook page, write down the thing that you could let go of. You don't need all of like you don't need all of the details. Provide however much you want. If you think we need context to understand it, go for it. If not, just write down a word. What can you let go of right now that can help you step into that chrysalis a little bit? And I will enter everybody who does this before the end of the year. I'll enter them into a drawing, and I will send them a copy of Little Tree.
Oh,
I will do it.
Very kind of you.
Yeah, and you're going to like it. So please join in the conversation. What can you let go of to open that gateway a little bit for yourself?
Wow.
Maybe you could win Little Tree.
I love it.
Cool. What, do you have an additional one?
Do I have an additional ask? I just want to go back to, gosh, I can't remember now when you said this, but I want to ask, it might have been in a different podcast where you talked about visioning, time for visioning. And I want to ask our listeners to give themselves some time to think about the new year and some time to think about what they want their new year to look like. So I want to ask everybody to just take some time. It can be in a drive to work or in a shower or a meditation or anything, but think about some things you want your 2018 to look like.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is much more powerful when you step into it with a goal like that.
Yep, I love that. And that'll get everybody in the right mindset. We have one more episode before the end of this year, which is blowing my mind. And we are going to talk about what our goals are personally and for this podcast in 2018. So it's really good timing for that ask. Thanks for sharing that. All right, cool. Well, until then.
Beautiful day.
You too. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us for another episode. If you haven't already done so, please do us the honor of leaving a rating and review on iTunes. And check in with us on social. Amanda Kingsley is a work-from-home mother of 3. Her mission is to free parents from financial stress so they can spend more time being present with their children. Learn more at her website, thewhyhive.com. Tara Masildine is a passionate entrepreneur, founding several businesses over the last 15 years. She's currently living the adventure of being a CEO, mom, and collaborative coach. Find her at allin.life.